Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Dinmore, and this week we are going to discuss Leapfrog technology. Technologies that undeveloped nations have adopted that allow them to skip ahead in their technological evolution. We'll be going into different forms of Leapfrog technology and innovations, as well as the responsibility held by developed nations in this technology they do inevitably hand down. We'll talk about the importance of infrastructure and policy in undeveloped nations, and to not ignore the value of human capital in these scenarios. Finally, we'll discuss the leapfrog technologies of tomorrow and what's next for these nations. One of the greatest examples of leapfrog technology is cell phones. Mobile communication systems in places like Afghanistan and Kenya started to blow up around the first introduction of cell phones into modern society in the early 2000s. There was a much higher adoption rate in these undeveloped nations than America, some places sprouting up as much as 80% usage as compared to the United States' 20% usage. Some of the advantages here that differ from developed nations is that in undeveloped nations it was often very difficult to contact elderly relatives and check up on children and keep track of people in general. Cell phones allowed for that issue to be mitigated. Cell phones also led to our next leapfrog technology, digital payment systems. Now, cell phones more or less give humans access to a form of internet, telecommunications in this sense, where they are able to exchange funds with one another through digital payment systems on their cell phones. This also became very popular in places such as the middle states of Africa and southern Asia, allowing people to easily transfer money to relatives and involve themselves in more entrepreneurial ventures. The same popularity was shared with mopeds and drone technology. Mopeds for fast travel between neighboring towns and villages. Being able to transfer large amounts of water was huge. Being able having a tow capacity to fuel your home, as well as for medical visits and whatnot. Just being able to get from point A to point B, not being on your foot and not having to use a car, which are rare in some of these undeveloped nations, really saved a lot of lives and changed the society as a whole, including the infrastructure for their roads. Drone technology sort of meshes with the security landscape in general. Not only does it allow for surveying of towns more easily, but it also allows for security footage and just protecting the people in general, allowing for a better enforcement of regulatory policies and laws. One of the greatest use cases for drone technologies, aside from the security aspect and surveying, is the medical use case. Rwanda has pioneered in adopting drone technology, partnering with a California-based Zipline drone startup to deliver blood to remote villages in the need for transfusions or other medical needs. Although leapfrog technology does have a lot of advantages, there are some setbacks that we need to be careful to avoid. And these fall under the responsibility of developed nations to ensure undeveloped nations don't shoot themselves in the foot. The lack of legacy infrastructure is particularly important. Entrenched vested interests could allow for the rapid adoption of emerging technologies, especially compared to developed nations that are forced to follow more incremental transition plans. This lack of regulatory behavior for these new technologies is a benefit for their growth, but could be detrimental to society's control over these. Seeing pernicious repercussions from these implementations is a huge worry that we have to avoid. Because of this, leapfrogging should be viewed for what it is, an enabler of sustainable development rather than a solution to all developmental challenges in emerging economies. We cannot accept it as the end-all be-all solution. It is an integration to evolve and to push that society forward in an undeveloped nation, but it is not to replace human capital, societal boundaries, governmental regulations. We still need the infrastructure surrounding these. Even such things as mopeds becoming more popular, they're going to degrade the road infrastructure. So there needs to be ways and construction endeavors in place to keep up with the emergence of these new technologies. All right, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you learned a thing or two, found out what Leapfrog technology is, some of the emergent technologies we expect to have the same effect to these undeveloped nations in the future, as well as the importance of infrastructure. It's key to understand that emergent technology takes the place of obsolete technology, but not of policy. Advancements may stimulate the economy, but rarely provide stabilization. That stabilization is up to the people. See you in the next one.